Just because I love you, it don't mean I trust you. Everybody not to be trusted. Everybody around me thugging. Everybody around me drugging. Everybody around me hustling. Everybody know not to bring no new niggas around me that say I be bugging. Got racks in the go-yard luggage. Just cause I love you, it don't mean I trust you. Everybody not to be trusted.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Uncut with Q, and I am your host, Quentin Flores. Guys, this is a phenomenal episode, man. Today, I got a really special guest who actually flew in from Houston to be in our show today. And we've been chopping it up, man. So, like, if you guys don't know, if you know, if you do, if you don't, I'm gonna fucking tell you anyway. We just opened up a new studio. Sadly, we're already moving to the next one. So it's kind of like we're still with the same building, same business, but the owner of this place is selling it. He's a good friend of mine. He owns a company called Cruising Kitchens, and we're just really excited. But this new space is super dope. It's right by the airport, and we're just excited to rebuild and keep focusing on delivering as much content as possible. I appreciate all of you guys that have been listening to the show and subscribing to the podcast. As you all know, we have a fee for the show, and it's very simple. If you get value from the show, if it made you think a little bit differently, if it challenged traditional perspective, all I ask is that you hit that share button. You don't just share it with people that like you see on Facebook. I ask for shares on social media. I want a personal one. I want you to send this to somebody that you know, love, and care about, that you believe could gain from being a part of this show. All right? And so with that being said, we're going to jump straight into it, guys. Today is a long-form episode, and I have a really awesome guest here. It's a good friend of mine named Zack. Bro, go on ahead and tell the whole world about who you are, what you do, my friend.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you, Q. So my name's Zack Butler. I was born in actually Reno, Nevada, and then got to Texas as soon as I could. So I grew up outside of Fort Worth, Texas, in a small town called Weatherford. And then from there, went into the Navy, spent a few years as a corpsman. So I was a medic out with the Marine Corps, and then went back to school. I went to Texas A&M, got my degree in Statistical Economics, went and worked on some trade floors doing commodity trading and strategy, and then still had some GI Bill left. So any veterans out there, use your GI Bill. It's amazing. Use that, went back to SMU, got my MBA, focused in finance and analytics, ended up somehow transitioning into being a cybersecurity investigator at Amazon. So you can imagine some of the interesting stuff we got to see there. And then from there I've always been an entrepreneur. I started my own business the first time when I was 14, just mowing lawns and then doing selling hay.
Oh, wow.
So went ahead and was following the dream and, started my own company with my best friend since I was 12 that I grew up with in Weatherford. And so now we own an insurance brokerage, and we really focus kind of on healthcare as we bring clients in. But really our focus is looking at insurance and nurturing clients as a holistic long-term relationship and developing strategies to help them through retirement. And that can even start at a very young age. I mean, from 18 up, and looking at insurance and how do you structure your insurance to not just be a cost, right? How do you structure it to be a value to yourself? Because there's a lot of different strategies that people can use and that people just don't know about because they're pretty complex, but you can go about them and utilize them to your advantage moving forward in any kind of business or any kind of financial situation you're in.
Man, that's an amazing story, bro. I want to dive into this real deeply because, I think a lot of people, when they jump into a business, it stems from something that they've always wanted to do for themselves in the past. When you were younger, because you mentioned you sold hay, did you always want to be a business owner?
I did. I think, I grew up with a pretty broken family, right? But I do remember, I haven't seen my biological father since I was probably 7, but I do remember at a very young age, he would be sitting there with all kinds of papers and magazines in front of his recliner. And then he would just always be coming up with business ideas. And it always was intriguing to me. Unfortunately, he is what I would like to call a wantrepreneur, right? He was not the greatest individual, kind of would be a con artist. He was in military intelligence during the Cold War, spoke 4 languages. Man was a genius, but unfortunately, he was utilizing his talents in a bad way.
Incorrectly.
Whereas if he would have just focused on maybe some of these really incredible ideas that he had in the past, he could have been, a very successful individual. So I think I inherited a lot of that, but I also saw how it was being done wrong at such a young age. And so I took that upon myself to say, okay, how do I take my family name and put my love of business that I've inherited and really, bring it back and associate it with, oh man, that's a good business. That's a great person.
Something that's helping people. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was a kid, I got to experience the same. Like my father, he had very bad addiction problems, and he was always addicted to something. But if I can tell you what, when my dad would put his mind to something, he would very well pick it up like super easily, And I had that skill set too, like growing up and seeing what we had all went through, because I actually went through the same. Like it was very broken. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of drugs. There was a lot of just stuff that I didn't really know was bad until I got older and I figured it out and I came to, so like I think we all have that awakening, and we grow up around people that we either want to be like, or we grow up around people that we never want to be like. And so like both of them mentors, just it depends on the eye of the beholder and the person who's experiencing it. You know what I'm saying? Because two people can go through the exact same thing and be in the exact same dark place. One person can resent people for it. The other person can say, I'm going to find a light, And so I think that is something that you decided to do. You decided to walk into something that you felt would add on to people, not take away, because you've experienced the takeaway for such a long time.
Absolutely.
When you decided to jump into business, what was the first hustle really like? And what happened with that one?
Okay. So I would say at the time that I said, okay, I'm really going to try something, right? It was while I was at Amazon and I was going, okay, I had just gone through a divorce, was working through that. My business partner now had moved in with me and we were living together as roommates again. And so that was a lot of fun.
I'm sure that also helps too, bro, especially when you're going through stuff.
It
to
does.
have someone from your childhood come through.
Oh, it was by far and away the most incredible thing ever. And we'll probably get into it deeper, but our friendship just through some of the things that happened throughout the last 2 years just deepened and deepened. But, I guess the first thing is he had been in the insurance industry, right, for, 5 years. And he was kind of, trying to figure out how to transition to help people, right? Because he was sitting and he was doing group benefits to begin with, things like that. He was having success, but he really didn't feel like he was just making a difference, right? He felt like he was just having to go out and hustle, which again, hustling is extremely important, but you got to have a reason, a why, right? And I don't think he just didn't have a why. So when we started living together, he asked me, he said, Zach, let's go, like, help me find where to go. So initially, we started in life insurance, right? So like for me, was looking at it, was like, okay, this is kind of where everyone starts, right? I was making really good money. And so I was like, okay, I'll continue to do my job and I'll fund us, right, to try to start this business. Well, about $100,000 later and a lot of failing, we figured out that was not the route. And the reason was pretty straightforward. Life insurance, I believe, and again, some people are amazing at it and they're doing it the correct way, but the way that we were going about it, telesales, that just wasn't we were not successful at it. We were not good at it. And it didn't match our personal values and our why, right? Because anytime we would get someone on the phone, we would try to educate and we would try to help them. Whereas they would be sitting in and saying, oh, okay, well, I want this, and even we would talk our way out of sales all the time because we would be trying to help people like, hey, I know you want this, but we know so much about insurance that we would be saying, hey, you can spend less money, right? And get a different product that is actually going to create more value for you in the long run than just going out and selling someone a 10-year term just to make the sale and get out, which I believe a lot of people unfortunately in the industry we're trying to do. So we said, okay, we have very good success meeting people face to face and building relationships. So we went back to the drawing board after failing for about 6 months and said, it took me about 15 minutes to realize, okay, if we want to go truly help people and people are going to actually listen to us in terms of consulting, because we don't want to sell, right? We want to help and we want to consult people. I'm not sitting there trying to upsell people, things like that. I want to build a strategy, build a relationship with somebody that's going to last for years and years.
Pays
20,
off
30
long
years.
term, man. Too many
Absolutely.
people in this industry, it just, when I say industry, I'm going to say business in general.
Agreed.
You know, they look for the quick buck over the long lasting buck, because the quick ones, like I call it forward front facing. I mean, it's like, it's right here and you're only looking at what's 5 inches in front of you. When if you just kind of peered at like a little bit of what could be 5 feet in front of you, there could be a huge difference between this sale that you're making right now and the relationship that you could possibly be cultivating today. You know, if I can add on to it, man.
Absolutely.
So like a couple of months ago, I'd say this was about in February, I had signed up a gal who wanted to get business coaching from me. And so her and I went into it. For about 4 weeks, we ended up going through the notion of me coaching her, right? And then out of nowhere, she kind of just blocked me on social media. And then I said, well, I started emailing her because it was one of the only things I wasn't blocked on. I said, hey, is everything okay? Please let me know what's going on. And so like she had initiated a chargeback for the amount of money that she had paid for me. And so there was no communication, no nothing like that, right? And so like I try to be as understanding as humanly possible. Most people would see something like that and be like, oh, screw this person. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to say, screw it. I'm going to send over all the information for all the sheets and all the stuff that she was in, and proof to the bank for the chargeback, for all of the things that I had already delivered to her. And rather than doing that, I just literally let her take her money back. And we hadn't talked for about 4 months. And she messaged me 2 days ago, bro. And I had been emailing her once a month just to see if she's okay. And I said, hey, you know, Vivi, are you all right? I know we haven't talked, and I just want to let you know I approved of your chargeback, and maybe we just didn't align on the right time. You know, I don't ever want you to think that I needed your money. It's not that case. I just wanted to make sure that you were taken care of. And so she messaged me 2 days ago, and she and I had a really long conversation. She told me about some things that had happened personally, which is exactly what it was. I could have looked at that in such a negative light. And instead of thinking short term and saying like, oh, you know, I lost another sale, or I don't want to lose a sale, I'm just going to keep this person's money and tell them like I already delivered on what she paid for. I gave her the money back. Man, she signed up for like double of what she paid for last time, dude. And that was literally on Tuesday of this week. And so like, you know, I got her set up with her own CRM. I got her building out her own infrastructure and her own business. And she's in the crypto space, man. So like, you know, huge shout out to Vivi and just for being who she is. Because, I mean, honestly, people could just talk, right? But some people aren't ready for a conversation. But being understanding before being understood, that's what's been a separation factor for me and 90% of the people that are in the coaching space, is that we think long term. And just because I'm not making money with you today doesn't mean we're not going to make money together. Just because I'm not giving you a service today doesn't mean that you won't get a service from me in the future. My goal is to make an impact on you that's everlasting, so that when you think, oh, insurance, boom, you think of Zack. Oh, real estate, boom, you think of Quentin, right? And people need to operate more like that. And so I love what you're saying about the long-term thing, man. I just want to add that to everybody in here, that we all go through it. You know what I mean? And so like, I think that the way that you're running it is the best way to run it. What do you think, Zack, is the most fulfilling part of what you do now for your business?
That's a great question. I think, honestly,
You deal with a lot of seniors, right?
There's so much, right? I think there's multiple aspects that can be extremely fulfilling. I think the big one, just in general, right, is so when someone's turning 65, right, and they're coming on to Medicare, they're scared, right? I can't tell you how many times I get very anxious phone calls because people have been on their group plans at work for the last 40 years. And when they don't know what their insurance is, most people don't. There's going to be people listening on here. You don't know what your group plan is. You probably went and looked at your friend and you said, hey, what are you on? Oh, okay. So you sign up for it. And then you get into a point where you got to get on Medicare. And now the onus is on you, right? The government says you have to sign up for it or else you get penalized, right? And but there's like hundreds of ways to structure your Medicare. And so
what happens at 65 with the Medicare?
So 65 is your normal enrollment period, right? So you have when you turn 65, that's when you're eligible for Medicare. That's the normal reason. There's a couple others.
Gotcha.
But that's the main thing, right? So when you turn 65, you're eligible to enroll. And you have 3 months before, the month of, 3 months after. But really what ends up happening is people, again, you've got original Medicare and then you have to structure it, right? And then you have to, you literally, you have to go figure it all out yourself. You just get a letter in the mail that says, hey, you're about to be eligible for Medicare. Make sure you enroll, right? Well, the onus is now on you to understand, what does that even mean, right? How do I structure it, et cetera? And I can't tell you, we hold educational seminars for free, right? So they're non-sales events. We bring people in, we hold a dinner, we feed them all a dinner. We have regulations, so we can't spend more than $15 a plate, but we bring them in and we go through Medicare 101, right? There's no obligation, nothing. We can't legally sell anything anyways.
Yeah.
So we're just going in and showing them what Medicare is, and we give them all the resources, even if they wanted to sign themselves up, right? But I can't tell you how many people you can just see their breath go, right, after they've heard the presentation or they've gotten to sit down and talk to us, because they realize, oh, okay, this isn't that hard per se, and there's a resource out there that we can utilize, because Medicare consultants can't charge a dime. It's illegal.
Wow.
So the only thing that you're selling is yourself, the fact that you're trustworthy, you're authentic, you're going to help, and that you know what you're talking about. And the only thing that the client is having to provide on their side is time, right? Okay, you just have to spend the time, which most of them are spending a lot of time researching, etc. When they could, again, I encourage that, right? But also come to somebody who knows, right, the intricate details of things that can sit down and just help guide you. Our job is not to sell you anything. It's just to make sure that help you make the right decision. And then, we get compensated by insurance carriers.
Wow.
So it's honestly, as I looked at it, it was, for me, by far and away, a double opportunity, which was, the opportunity was provide service, right? So I think Zig Ziglar said a quote a long time ago that was, help enough people get what they want, you'll have everything that you ever wanted. And so that's the way that I just look at it, right? I just go, hey, if I'm helping people, right, with something that is truly an issue, I'm providing the gap in, I'm filling the gap in service, we'll be successful. It's not, at the end of the day, business is about money, but at the same time, our why is so much different. It's not about the money. It's about what we can provide. And we have plans to be able, especially in Houston, I'm hoping maybe next year we can start our nonprofit, for things like Hurricane Beryl. When it came through, we were all out of power for a week, right? And there were senior centers calling some of our partner clinics and saying, hey, we're out of power. Is there anything that, that you guys can do help-wise? So there's a huge gap in the senior community for when things like this happen. All I was able to do, because I drive, kind of a redneck lifted truck with a winch, I reached out to all of our clients and I was like, hey, if you guys need anything, meals or whatever, I'll go buy stuff and bring it to you, etc. I got a winch. I can get you through if you're stuck, but
Wow.
that was all I could offer at the time. So I'm hoping next year we can fund a nonprofit. And I always tell people I want us to be the Mattress Mac, right, of insurance at Houston, where people don't know us as insurance company, right? They just know us for the philanthropy and the good that we do.
That's the best way to do it. Anybody wants to work with the company that is contributing to society getting bigger, better as a whole. And I know I've mentioned this on, and it's probably the best time to mention this, especially on the podcast. And I hope you don't mind if I throw this in on what we're doing. But 15% of what Infinite Productions makes every single year. And this is in retrospect to everything that we do, because I make a lot of different resources I make a lot of different, there's multiple sources of income that come in from this, right? I always take 15% of what we make from this whole freaking thing, and I throw it straight into, we do Toys for Tots every year.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And it's for Christmas, So a lot of the toys that we get, when I was a kid, I had gotten into, I experienced my mother going through domestic violence, and me being a part of it, trying to protect my mom, I would receive the same. And so when we would leave the house, we would be taken into a shelter, and the shelter would take care of us for a whole month. We had free food, free Wi-Fi. Well, no, I don't think Wi-Fi was a fucking thing at the time. We had free meals, free clothes, toys, games. I had a Sega, a Nintendo, and a TV. And it was just like a whole vibe, bro. I'd be there for like a whole month. But, you know, my mom had nowhere to go. So we'd just go right back to my dad. And we left probably 15, 20 times. Having experienced that, when I grew up and I finally like remembered this, because it's like kind of like there's blockades in life. Like as you get older and as you start experiencing things, start becoming more successful in your niche, start helping so many people, you forget about all the dark things that you went through when you were a kid, you know? And they have this funny way of kind of like running up on you in the worst case scenario. There's a quote that I'll admit that I'll say. When you're at your highest point is when the devil is most present.
100%.
And subsequently, it's actually the exact same for the opposite. When you are operating in comfort, the devil won't mess with you. He'll just say, I already got him. He's already staying where he needs to be. And he ain't going to walk into no light. He's comfortable. That is a crazy concept. So like, knowing that and then going into all of this is just a crazy thing, because when I finally started making good money, I wanted to start something. I asked my mom what the hell that place was. You won't know what it is because only women know about it, and it's called the Women's and Children's Battered Shelter. There's about maybe 40 plus locations throughout all of San Antonio, because this city is rated as one of the top domestic violence places you can live in, bro. It's crazy to even think about. I didn't know these things until 3 years ago when we created this foundation for Infinite Productions. We started giving out toys to kids. And so this year we plan on filling out a whole bunch of freaking boxes so we can donate some toys to kids, bro. And we deliver them to the Salvation Army for the Toys for Tots Foundation, which they then take them to the Women's and Children's Battered Shelter. It's real crazy, man. But like, incredible. We do that, you know, and why do we do that? It's not like I make money doing that. I'm not making a dime telling anybody on this freaking podcast that that's what we do. But in retrospect, to attest to what you were mentioning, that's what it's like to be in business. The more that you serve, the more that God will continue to flow oceans of blessings toward you. And you might not get it now. The thing about blessing deposits that God gives us is that there's never a timestamp on them. No. We might not get them today. We might not get them in 20 years. We might not get it until the day we're in a hospital bed ourselves. The point is that those things, they bleed into everything else of who we are and what we stand for. And they're the reason why we get more business. Is because we choose to give. And it's one of my favorite quotes. And this is one of the ways that I feel that you run your business. The greatest gift that you can give to somebody is your own personal development. So you're literally just showing people something that benefits them. And they're getting so much from it. And you're not even trying to sell them. They're just gravitating toward you because of the amount of information that you're giving out to the community of people that are needing this stuff. I mean, freaking seniors, bro. Seniors get taken advantage of all of the time. Yes. You know? And so like seeing that's just crazy. I want to ask you, tell me a case study that you got from a client that you helped tremendously that was really into some stuff, may have been miseducated, may have had a bad experience with someone else. I want to hear a case study of somebody that you've really done well for.
Okay, so there's multiple, but one of the ones I will touch on, because I'm sure some people listening, whether you're on Medicare, or your parents are on it, or your grandparents, right? I think this one was very interesting. So we had a client and she got a phone call around AEP, which is coming up. That's the annual enrollment period. That's when really all the scams start coming out like crazy, right? And someone called her and they said, hey, is this, Jenny? And she was like, absolutely. And they were like, okay, hey, do you live at 456 Marigold? I do. And they said, hey, can you confirm your Medicare number with me? That's it. And so she told them her Medicare number and they said, okay, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And they hung up. Well, they had switched her plan. That's all that they need to switch your plan. And so some people are working in a gray area where, we got them in a lot of trouble because they didn't know that she was working with us. We reported them, all of those things, but they changed her plan over. Then she wasn't able to see her doctor, right? In January when it switched. And so we had to go through a whole rigmarole. It took us about 3 weeks to get it switched back so she could go see her doctor. And then we had some that, honestly, like I said, they get put into a plan. They don't know how to use it. They don't know how it works. So we had one person, she was about 82. She reached out to us. We went and she had been taken advantage of. She had been switched 4 times in 1 year because she was on Medicaid and Medicare. And those people really get preyed on because they were able to switch right throughout the year. And so she got put on a plan and had no idea how to use it. So we had to sit down. We got her put on the no-call list, which is not perfect, right? It doesn't stop everything, but it does slow it down. And then we had to call, get with her doctor, reset her primary care physician, get her prior authorizations pushed through.
You guys did all of that for this lady?
No, absolutely.
Wow.
So
most insurance companies just put you on a plan.
Say again?
Most insurance companies just put you on a plan and that's it.
100%.
They won't even check on you.
No. And so that's where I do, as a brokerage, it's just so much different, right? Or individual agents. I believe personally, especially in Medicare. So like, first of all, Medicare clients are by far normally the most vulnerable, right? They're getting up in age, their health, you don't get healthier as you get older. Right. Don't get me wrong. I've got some people that are 83 that still run marathons. Right. But a majority are not like that. Right. And so it's not necessarily the onus on the insurance. There's a lot of onus on the insurance company or the plan to try to help. But really, an independent agent, traditionally as people use, right, what they should be doing is truly providing a service. So the way Medicare compensation works is it's not huge, right? It's not a massive amount of commission, things like that. What it does give you is a very good residual. So every year that client is in your book, you're getting 50% of the initial residual from when they turn 65. So you're basically getting a level commission every year, right? And it's to incentivize you. It's supposed to be paid to you to help. Right? You're supposed to be helping. You're supposed to be reviewing things with them. If they have issues, you're supposed to be doing that. So we structured our business in a way where we don't have independent agents. We have agents that work for our agency, and we've been able to, get support staff, things like that. So when people have questions, we are there. We are a full concierge service. And it truly is. Again, it's to help. So we don't look at a client as a number sign, right? We look at them as, some of our clients that we help the most have by far all they have with us is their Medicare. And that's fine, because at the end of the day, the people that only are in a situation where they can only receive potentially Medicaid and Medicare, they're the ones that need the most help. So really what you're doing is taking advantage of economies of scale, right? Having a lot of clients that you can take and allocate those resources back, right, into individuals that may not have as much resource, but you can give them the resource of somebody that may have, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars at 65, right? And so that was our goal, is to really try to provide a level service across everybody, because the insurance companies, you're going to change once you get that age, you're going to change insurance companies quite a bit throughout from 65 till the time you pass away, but you're not going to change us, right? Like, we're going to be there. So as we always tell people, continuity of care, things like that, like, we're going to be a constant. You're going to work with us forever. You may have a doctor for a short period of time. You may have a specialist for a short period of time. You may be on this plan for 1 year, but we're going to be around for 20 or 30 years. So we know what doctors you've been seeing, what, medications you're on. We have a relationship with you. So we know your financial situation. When we sit down with you, we know how to structure all of your insurance to make sure that you're in the best situation and you're not getting taken advantage of. Right?
Man, what a load of information, bro. And I love what you guys are always doing. And this is what I'm seeing. And this is a constant throughout the flow of this whole podcast. It's serve and give and then receive. But you receive so that you get to give again. And that is such a cool way of looking at it, bro. And I love that, man. I think that more people should be operating like this. And if there's one thing that I can mention, just being in business, bro, I see a lot of different people in a lot of different industries. I don't see a lot of people that are bringing light to what it is that you guys are doing. And the majority of the people that I know that are in freaking insurance, that are insurance brokers or selling insurance, work for MLM companies. You know, like World Financial Group or Primerica. Those are like two real big companies that I'm aware of that essentially have like multi-level marketing models where they bring people on, where you can get paid to recruit people, you can get paid to sell insurance, you can get paid to start your own agency and bring agents underneath you. So it's like there's this plethora of like information that's not really out there, man. And so like the goal for you guys, right? Because y'all were talking about starting something soon, right? You want to kind of shed some light on this podcast that you're talking about dropping?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping with our podcast, it truly, you know, Texas Medicare News Team, TMNT. And
Super
so
dope.
the goal with the podcast, to your point, it's just to provide education similar to what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, hey, we want to bring people on and let's talk about what is the life of somebody that's probably on Medicare, that's going into those senior years, not just Medicare, but how does Medicare tie in with other things? Like talking about clinics that you can go to, different kind of home health services, different retirement companies, just bring in people from the industry that are extremely knowledgeable to provide, to your point, a plethora of information that seniors, hell, even people younger than that, right? Because all of us are going to be in that situation
Sooner or later.
Sooner rather than later. So being able to have an outlet, right, where just, hey, disseminate as much educational content as possible, and not just focus on, you know, I see a lot of podcasts right now, especially in the Medicare world. There's two real main ways to structure your Medicare Supplement, and Medicare Advantage. Most brokers and agencies focus on one or the other. One hates this, one hates that. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the individual, right? As to what's best for them. And so as I've seen some of these podcasts, I mean, it is just rampant on trying to bash one or the other. And sure, they provide some educational content and it's great, but they're really not focusing on the holistic view of what someone in Medicare, what their life is. They're truly kind of, there's an undertone of sales.
I see.
For sure. It's not just pure education, right? It's education baked in with, oh, you should, you should get on a med sup and you should call us type situation. And this is why. I say that some seniors may not be able to see through that, but there is definitely for individuals in the industry, you can see the non-genuine portion of trying to educate. They're trying to educate with the intention of you're going to come to us and buy this product. Whereas we're just trying to say, hey, let's just disseminate the facts, right? Let's bring people on. Again, let's not just focus on Medicare Supplement or Medicare Advantage. Let's bring in people from, that's not the only thing. How do you actually use your Medicare, right? What are some of the services that you can get? That's what's important as well, right? Because, okay, now you're on Medicare. Well, what can I do with it, right? So bringing people in from the different styles of clinics, there's different styles of care, the different ways that plans structure their care and teams, like just bringing in and to your point, shining a light on what these things are, I think is a massive gap. I can't find them, right? Yeah. And so we said, hey, we need to start our own podcast just to bring people in and do what we're doing right now, to have conversations and just disseminate that information.
Yeah, because there's a lot of misinformation that's out there as well, and a lot of bias information as well, where people are just very opinionated. Agreed. But there needs to be like structure. One of my favorite quotes of all time is "Faith is in the evidence," and this is in Matthews. It's in the Bible, and what he's mentioning in this is that it's not enough to just go out and believe in something. It's more or less. And it's funny because he's referencing God, right? And in this structure of the Bible and the scripture, what he's basically mentioning is you have to prove that it exists. And so numbers, math, science, this is the handwriting of God. And we don't even understand it until we put math to it, bro. And so like, I think that that's so true in any business, is that the more math and the more science and the more facts and the more truth that you can bring to anything, I promise you're favored because you're operating that way. And so like, man, I make videos all the time of just like stuff that I know and things that I do, bro. And I talk about it on the podcast. I got a lot of people that just are very misinformed, that don't understand the full picture of what everything is that is being delivered to them. But that's okay. That's why we keep continuing to give and we keep continuing to educate, because that's how we get more clientele. That's how we serve more people. That's how we reach more people to help. Because a lot of people don't know they need help until they listen to a podcast like that, man.
Agreed.
And you're blowing my mind, dude. I know nothing about Medicare. So it's like, this is completely taboo for me.
Yeah.
But I know that there's going to come a day, and it's for all of us, no matter where you're listening to or how old you are in this podcast, even your parents, your grandparents, your brothers, your sisters, whoever you've grown up with that's already coming to that age. This is the time that you need to start educating yourself on stuff like this, man. Because it's just not enough people really taking this seriously until they have to take it seriously. And by then, you're going to make all the mistakes because you didn't spend your 30s or 40s preparing yourself for these things. You know, so like, what's some advice that you can give to somebody who doesn't know a lot about this stuff, dude, that wants to know more about what you guys offer, what y'all have going on, and really just everything? Like, how can they get a better perspective of this? What is the first thing that you would do for, like, what piece of advice would you give them?
Absolutely. So there's two main things that I would focus on as I would be giving advice. That would be really, first of all, let's look at where you're at in the timetable of your life, right? Are you prior to 65? Are you in your 30s, 40s, or are you coming close on that age and moving forward? If you're coming close, you know, you're 63, 64, you know, just start doing some research, taking a look, trying to understand what is Medicare, right? What am I going to do with my retirement? What do my 401ks look like? Do I have a plan for long-term care? Things like that, right? And then trying to meet with, I always recommend a local licensed agent, but also be very careful. Make sure you can trust them. Make sure they're authentic. Make sure they're looking out for your best interests. You can always go as well to our website, theinfinitepartners.com. You can reach out to us. Our phone number's on there. You can, you know, reach out to us on a contact form. I think the other thing is if you're in your 30s, right, 30s and 40s, there's really a lot of structure that you could be looking at. So like taking Medicare out of it at this point, we do a lot of estate planning, right? So I can sit with people, you know, even 18 and older. Actually, I do a lot of estate planning with the Medicare people. I sit down and end up creating basically investment structures for their grandkids, right? To start funding their policies for school, which is a different way than a 529, right? That I do for my son. I'll sit with business owners and teach them how to use a life insurance policy where it's tax-free income, right? So they're taking potentially no salary from their business and they're funding their own policy. It's called a corporate-owned life insurance policy, and they will loan money from that as they need it. And also the business owns it, so it's now a business asset. So there's just so much when it comes down to how you structure things. And there's, to your point, there's a lot of good information, a lot of bad information. Mostly it's just incomplete. So I saw the trend now, right? There's a huge trend out there for infinite banking, right? And there's just so many misconceptions about it and the way that it's structured. You don't just go in, put money in and have access to this massive death benefit that, you know, same day. And they're very complex structures. You can't just sit down and sit with anybody who just started in insurance and, you know, pray that they're able to build you one of these styles of policies. Because really they're just structured on something called an IUL, an Index Universal Life Policy, or a whole life policy. So as I'm looking at it at the age of, you know, I'm 31, and I already have things like, I see a lot, right? And it's the advantage of working with seniors. I see what they're having to spend waiting till 65. Okay, so if they want to buy something for long-term care, they're going to have to spend, you know, $700-800 a month. Whereas I had somebody that was 35 go ahead and start funding their long-term care. They spend $32 a month.
Wow.
So, and that'll be locked in for that forever, right? I mean, time truly is your friend. And a lot of people they just don't want to look at it or don't think about it until they're getting retirement in general, right? They don't start looking about it or thinking about it till they get up there. So we've partnered with, a very large estate planning firm in Houston. And then we have one in Georgetown as well that we partner with. And so, I mean, I'll sit down with people in their 30s, business owners, and say, okay, we need to structure your estate now, right? Let's go ahead and get you a trust set up. Let's go ahead and put some stuff in this trust. Let's safeguard your assets, right? Let's make your assets as tax advantage as they can be. And then if you're a business owner, especially, it's like, okay, how do we take your cash flow that you're getting from your business and really maximize it, right? Because you can flow that cash through a policy, right? And the money that you flow through that policy grows every year. You're taking advantage most of the time of what's called interest arbitrage, right? Because you're taking loans out of your policy for yourself, right? And they're non-taxed because you're taking a loan from yourself. So the only thing you get charged is interest, but the interest that you're getting charged is interest against yourself on your own policy. So there's just really interesting structures that you can do. They're pretty complex, but at the same time, you can use them for all things. It's not just if you're a business owner. If you own your own home and you want to pay your home off faster, I've seen people who take their mortgage payment and they put double their mortgage payment into a policy, and then they pull out their mortgage payment, right, from their policy and then pay their mortgage payment. And so what that is doing is they are now making double value. So the interest that they're making on the equity in their home, right, they're doubling that and then some, because they're now taking advantage of the interest arbitrage in their policy. So it's just some very interesting structures. I get to sit down with people sometimes and really walk through them. But that's, I think, it's pretty stimulating and a lot of fun. And there's just so many products and options that, again, it's not just trying to go make a sale, right? It's truly
it's really
down,
tailoring something to somebody.
Exactly. It's customizing something and building a plan and a structure and getting someone excited. To your point about, these MLM structures, right? When I talked about kind of what we first tried with the life insurance, those structures, in my opinion, truly do how they're successful, right? Is they're recruiting a bunch of, agents that sit in their downline, et cetera. And all of these people are just going and trying to sell, 10-year, 20-year, maybe 30-year term policies for $50, $60 a month. And they get like a decent commission on them. And then the people above them get a little bit of that commission, but they're not making a relationship. They sell it to somebody, and the only time they might reach back out to them is if the person doesn't pay for the policy, right? And they end up getting charged back. So if you're only talking to a person one time on a phone, they've sold you something, and the next time you hear from them is when they're basically trying to be a repo debt collector. Well, that's not a very good relationship. That doesn't feel like a good relationship, right?
It's a sale, man.
Yeah, that is 100%.
Like, hey, dude, you stop paying. I need you to pay, or this goes into repo.
Exactly, 100%. So that's not the way we want to do business. We want to have true clients, right, that we are nurturing and helping throughout their lives.
Yeah. Man, I love what you guys are doing. I love what you stand for, bro. It's super awesome to kind of dive in to where you come from, to where you're at right now, doing all of the things that you're doing, having gone through your trials and tribulations and rebuilding a business that really just fulfills you. And your partner, I'm sure I'll meet really soon. And I'd love to get both you guys back here to talk more about this stuff, man.
Absolutely.
It's just super awesome. For my people that are watching, how can they get a hold of you guys again? Just to reiterate on it one more time.
Yeah. So the easiest ways to get a hold of us would be theinfinitepartners.com. I don't normally do this, but our number, right? It's 832. I'm gonna get this right. Just give me a second.
No,
Our office number is 832-814-7750. So you can always call that as well, and one of us will answer. If you're trying to get a hold of me, you can that'll get you to probably one of our account managers, and you can tell them, hey, I'd like to talk to Zach, and they'll get you over to me.
Man, that's awesome. I appreciate you flying in and being on my show, Zach. It means a lot to me, bro. So
absolutely.
We will see you guys on the next one. Let's get it. Boom, boom.